I just want to thank all of you for taking your time and letting your advocacy here and a day on Capitol Hill to advocate for programs to reduce poverty and hunger around the world. Helene is right. I've done a lot of work on children's issues in the past, basically dealing with doing away with child labor around the globe in different countries and trying to get a better system for our kids, whether it's in the Ivory Coast or Ghana with the cocoa workers, with the kids in Pakistan. This is some years ago with the soccer ball industry in the Sialkot region of Pakistan, or the young girls who were working in the mills and the factories in Dhaka, Bangladesh, making shirts, or the young women in Nepal, many of whom were forced into child labor and then taken up and shipped off to India to work in the brothels of India and then returned back home. So these are the issues I've been working on a lot in the past 15, 20 years. But the other issue also that I've been working on is just this whole issue that you're involved in, and that's eradicating hunger. There's an old saying, I'm on the Appropriations Committee, and there's an old saying on appropriations that if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. Well, I can assure you, you are at the table. CARE is always there. You have good representation, and I thank you for being at the table. And it's important because hungry people around the world, poor people, cannot come here to lobby. They don't have the wherewithal. They suffer in silence. They're in the margins. They're out of sight. And that's why your activism and your advocacy on their behalf is just incredibly important, especially today when global recession is pushing more and more people into poverty and into hunger. If we're going to get to the root, I think, of a lot of this, we have to look at development, and to be able to develop things, we have to make sure that people have enough food. That's sort of the primary thing, is food. So we worked on the 2008 Farm Bill. I'm the chairman of the Agriculture Committee, and through the advocacy of CARE, we were able to reform some of our international food assistance programs in the last Farm Bill. We provided $60 million in mandatory funding for the USDA to conduct a pilot program to evaluate the feasibility of adding local and regional procurement of foods and foodstuffs at the disposal of our government in providing humanitarian assistance. And again, I appreciate the advocacy of CARE and other PVOs in advocating for this. Now, the study and the pilot program will be finished in a couple of years, just in time for the 2012 Farm Bill. Farm bills are every 5 years, and so the next one will be up in 2012. If, as I suspect, that this study confirms the value of having the flexibility of providing cash for local procurement, because you see, you got a lot of bounces out of that. You stimulate agricultural activity, you provide markets for local farmers, and that increases all kinds of economic activity in those areas. So that if this proves out, like I think it does, I hope that Congress will seriously consider establishing a separate program just for that purpose in the next Farm Bill. I also appreciate your passionate advocacy for the Global Food Security Act, which you mentioned. Again, this global recession has plunged too many people into poverty and food insecurity. The United Nations FAO, the Food and Agriculture Organization, now estimates there are about 1 billion hungry people in the world. So we have to acknowledge that the United States and other developed countries have dropped the ball in the last few decades, reducing our investment in agricultural development, in activities in Africa and on the Asian, especially in Southeast Asia. And in the absence of that, agricultural productivity has stagnated or ground to a halt. And that's why I'm grateful to the leadership of Senators Lugar and Senator Casey. The bill number is S-384. You probably have that already seared into your memory banks, the Global Food Security Act, to increase funding for agricultural research and development and to provide for interagency coordination on these activities. So I'm proud to be a co-sponsor of that bill. Hopefully, with your help, we'll get it passed this year. So I want to thank all of you for your advocacy, for being here today. It means a lot.